Previously, we've only looked at what are known as path-based selections. And basically the concept there is that they work very much like our shape tools and our vector-based tools. Now we're going to look at what are known as pixel-based selections. And the idea with pixel-based selections is basically that it analyzes the pixels under your click and tries to find other pixels in your picture that are similar to those pixels. We're going to be using the magic wand tool for that, and so make sure you have the magic wand tool selected. And if you've previously used this, just make sure that you click this reset tool on your property bar to make sure that you see the same properties that I have. The second thing I want you to do is open a file here called wandtester.rif, which is in the chapter 9 work files. The most important thing to understand about working with the wand is this tolerance value, which is right here. Now if we go ahead and drag this all the way down, you'll see it goes from 0 to 255. And what that should tell you is that that's basically 256 shades of gray, which is, as I told you when we were looking at color, is each RGB channel. So basically, the idea here is that you can go from 100% of any color that's similar to what you just clicked on to basically 0% of any other color, and that becomes sort of like the maximum precision. So let's just go ahead and set it for 0 right now, and we'll just go ahead and click on, say, this black over here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and you can see we've chosen just that black if I click the blue. We've chosen just the blue if I click the red, just the red if I choose the green, just the green. If I choose a particular shade of gray, I'll get just that shade of gray. Now, the important thing to know here is that this does respect clicking and dragging. If we click and drag, we get a range, even though we have a tolerance set to 0. Same thing here. If I click and drag, I've got that range that I just clicked and dragged, even though I've got a range set to 0. Now, one of the things that's really interesting or important to understand about working with this is that when you're working, it selects the tolerance in both directions. So if we say that we're going to set this tolerance to, say, something like 128. So I'm just going to type in 128, and I'm going to go ahead and click on, say, this green down here. What happens is I get half that gradient because it's going 128 color variations from this green outward. Now, if I click on the red, we'll get the same thing. It'll go to the halfway point because we're getting 128 color variations from that red outward. However, if I click on the midpoint, you'll see that I basically get the entire range of colors. And if I hit Control D real quick, and I just do that one more time, now I get the full range of colors. The reason why I had to click outside that selection, but Control D just deselects something. So we'll do that one more time. Control D, click in the middle, and you can see I get that full range. Why? Because it's going 128 variations in this direction, and it's going 128 variations in this direction, and the midpoint of this gradient is basically just 50% between the two color extremes. So really, it's pretty easy to understand, but at the same time, it can really kind of bend your mind when you start doing things like clicking on colors, thinking that you're only going to get 128 variations, but you actually get 256 variations or more. Now, that becomes really true when you start working with near neutrals or neutral colors like gray. So if I click here at the midpoint of this gray, well, first let me click the black. So you can see here I get to the 50% of the gray. If I Control D to deselect that, and I click near the 50% of that gray, you'll see something kind of unexpected happen. You see that almost everything is selected except this far extreme of black and this far extreme of red and these solid colors down here. Let me do that one more time, Control D, and just click in the middle. And now everything is selected. Matter of fact, you can't even tell because the entire document is selected. If I zoom out, you'll see the entire document is selected. And the reason why is because I happened to click on a 50%, true 50% gray. And 50% gray is 128 values from every other possible variation. And therefore, everything will be selected. Now, like I said, this can be something that can really mess with your mind. So, click on these guys and experiment with different values here. But generally speaking, I don't recommend going above 128, even though you do have the possibility to go all the way to 255. Generally speaking, somewhere, in the default range of 32 or even down to 10 or 0 is typically where I work. Now, this becomes really important when we're working in, say, a document where we want more of a photographic type source material, or we're doing like a full-on painting and we want to select related colors, but we don't want to select others. The tolerance becomes incredibly, incredibly important as to whether or not we're going to get a successful selection. Also worth talking about is our anti-alias function, which we've already gone over, and our contiguous function here. And the contiguous function basically is going to allow us to select more than one shape. So if I just come over here and have that contiguous function turned on like we do by default, and I click, you'll see that we only get the one blue. And if I hold down Shift, I can add to that. If I hold down Alt, I can remove from that, right? Control D to deselect everything. If I turn off the contiguous function, now that's off, and I click on one of the blues, all the blues are selected. Now basically what that means is that it's selecting anything that's within 32 variations of this value of blue, but it's selecting it over the entire document. Same thing would happen if I clicked on black. So see, now it's chosen this black, these blacks, and it's also chosen some of the reds. So this contiguous function can be useful sometimes, but also sometimes it can lead to unexpected results. So just be aware that, sometimes if you're using that contiguous function, you might want to go down to something like, say, 10, and then go ahead and try to make a selection again. And now you can see we're getting less of that red. In this case, you might want to do something like Alt, click on that, and now we're only getting a few shades of black. Shift, click on that. You can see how you're going to have to adjust the tolerance until you find a sweet spot, so to speak, where things are going to give you the results that you're looking for, but at the same time not give you results that you're not looking for.